we do have this idea to play h3, which is really good. So there we go. I think this is the winning idea in this situation. Hello everybody, my name is Emil Stefanov, International Master, and as usual, I will be your guide to weekly scenario number 21 in Noctie. Let's get started. We continue to explore positions that happened in the recent FIDE Candidates Tournament, and for this week, the position we have is a Rook Endgame that happened in the game between Wei Yi and Nakamura in round 4. Now, the story of this game is that Hikaru Nakamura was wanting to play for the win. He did not want to just settle down for a draw. Wei Yi was on the defense for most of the game. Even though it was equal, it always felt that Wei Yi was the one wanting to make the draw. So, in this position, as you can see, they're all pawns on one side of the board. 3 versus 2. Naturally, what that means is it's most likely just going to be a draw. However, because Nakamura was pushing for the duration of the game for a win, Wei Yi made a mistake. So here, we get to exploit this mistake that happened. Now, if you know what happened in the game, you know that Nakamura was not able to, in fact, convert this position into a win, and the game ended in a draw. The moment that he missed was playing this pawn move, h5 to h4. It was actually quite important to remove the king's ability to go to the g3 square. So now, as you can see, Noctie chooses to play king e3. So here, we need to come up with a strategy in which we're able to, in a way, win this position. Now, the ways that we're going to win is, let's say this pawn is traded for both of these, that's a winning rook endgame. Another way this could be a winning rook endgame is if this pawn gets traded for these two. Very rare are these two pawns being traded for the g pawn going to be winning for black. Mainly, if we're able to win this extra pawn here, we will for sure be able to convert this position into a win. And as we can see, this rook is pinned. So is this rook if we were to play h3. Now, if we were to play h3 right off the bat, after gh3, rook h3, nothing happens. There's only going to be the f3 pawn that Noctie can defend quite easily, most likely with moves like rook f2. And yes, we have another check. King will go back to e2. There's another check. King will go to e3. Nothing's really happening there. So we need to come up with a way in which h3 is really, really powerful. So the moves that I'm thinking about are rook h2 and rook bg1. This is an interesting option as well to me because h3 will be able to continue attacking this pawn. Now the problem is Noctie is defending this pawn with both rooks. So even when we play h3, utilizing a pin, it might not be sufficient for the win. Again, this is a very rare occurrence to where 3 pawns for black are actually winning against 2 pawns on the same side. And this is one of those situations. So we have to be very precise in how we continue this position. Now, if you're ever stuck and you need help in a position, or you're thinking about the moves, so for example, I'm thinking about these 2 moves, and you're not certain which one you want to choose, or if there are even good moves, what you can do in Noctie is you can click on the Show Ideas button. And this is a great feature in Noctie. I'm going to click on the Show Ideas button, and as you can see, none of the moves that I was thinking about were in the suggestion of Noctie. It most likely has to do with the fact that, yes, the pawn was being defended one too many times. So instead, Noctie wishes to maybe give checks to the opponent's king. I actually like king g7 the most, because there are a few rare occurrences where we might actually get to kick this rook out of the way, and when it goes to g4, we have f5, so we can kick it out of the way of the defense of the g2 pawn. As you can see, Noctie plays rook g4, and I'm assuming that after f5, the rook will have to go this way, and then it becomes a little chaotic because obviously there's counterplay against our pawn, but maybe we're going to have something like this happen. So for the time being, I feel like king h6 is a good move, but maybe we could just go with f5 right off the bat. We do have to be worried about this and losing our pawn. So let's see if f5 is a good move. It looks like a good move. Our king will find solace, or we'll find safety on h6. So if Noctie goes here, then the rook is going to be trapped. So as predicted, Noctie plays rook c4. And here, this is the only thing we need to be watchful for, this counterplay against our g6 pawn. We don't want to lose this pawn, obviously. And so now is probably going to be the time to where we start pinning this pawn and trying to utilize it for the win. It's almost funny how this king could potentially get checkmated. If it comes here, there might be some sort of a checkmate happening, but we're far from that. There's always going to be checks against our king. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to continue with one of the moves that I was thinking about, which was rook h2. As you can see, a great move. Now, since there's no longer rook overprotecting the g2 pawn, so now this move h3 is going to start becoming a reality. King f4, Noctie's being very aggressive. So this is the moment where we probably need to slow down a little bit. If we play h3, there might be king g3, and hg2 is a funny move because if it takes, there's a promotion, but I think rook g2 will seal the game, unless we have f4, but there is rook f4, so even the distraction doesn't work, or also our rook is hanging. So mainly, what if we just play here? How is Noctie going to continue? There is a check, but again, our king will just dodge it. And maybe the idea is to try to go for the checkmate there. And us not being able to give the check on b4 might be the reason why this is a powerful move by Noctie. Just trying to checkmate us even in the endgame. Again, it is pretty concrete of a position. So let's figure out exactly what we want to do. So rook g1, as I mentioned, it's probably going to be a check. And rook c8 trying to checkmate us. And g5 is a move, but then king f5 exists. So very curious what we're going to do. We might start with king h6. And that is a great move because we dodge all the checks. And if rook c8, we always have this check to kind of off-balance the king. And if this rook goes here, then we can always take the pawn in the meantime. Rook c8 is the move played by Noctie. And so now I'm assuming we're going to start with the check and kick this king away. So now we're able to go king g5 and really continue making progress. Once again, king e5. Okay, very interesting. So king f6 is kind of a threat. It's not really successful because we always have rook b6 check. But mainly, don't blunder h3 because there is rook h8 and rook h3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just continue going with my standard plan of just improving my position and improving mainly my king. So king g5. As you can see, Noctie is playing well as well. Noctie stopping me from playing h3. So this is one of those positions where we're going to have to think, how do we proceed? Do we want to maybe just say, okay, your king's been cut off, and let's just focus on infiltrating with our king. So I like this rook h1 and rook e1 idea a lot, due to the fact that now Noctie's king is not where it wants to be. It wants to be on f2, but it's cut this way. And there is, there is g3, which I may have not considered fully, but I just thought we'd give a check, and after that, we can freely take this pawn on g3. See, the idea was there was a pin, so if we were to take, we were going to lose our rook on h1. But with this check, we force Noctie's king to move, and now what we're going to do is, after king to d6, we're just going to simply capture this pawn. Don't see any problems with it. There is rook g2, but we have f4, no problems. So now we have two extra pawns, and this is what I've been talking about. In two extra pawns, Rook Endgame, easily winning. And also, mainly, it has to do with the fact that this king is just cut off. It's on the wrong side of the board. Rook h3, that's a futile attempt to try to sacrifice on g3, but it's so funny. We could potentially try to checkmate this king going this way, but obviously Noctie will probably play king c5. But that being said, after the move rook d3, we will just clean up. Okay, now Noctie's really asking for it. I would just give this check just to continue cutting the king off. I thought king c5 was going to be the move, but nonetheless, we will eventually get to play rook d3 and clean up this pawn on f3. I'm assuming Noctie's going to have to sacrifice on g3, and if not, then okay, I will not miss checkmate. Rook b3. And let's go ahead and pre-move rook a1. That was quite a funny finish. Rook a2 is going to have to be the only move, and we're going to pre-move rook a2 because we're certain that that's going to be checkmate. So there you go. Let's go into the starting position one more time and test out the position against Noctie at a higher difficulty. Now, for game 2, we've increased the difficulty in Noctie. So game 1 was at a difficulty of bishop 4. Now this is at a difficulty of rook 3. And we already know the best move is h5, h4. We need to remove the option of king g3. So we do play h5, h4 indeed. And now Noctie decides rook g4. So already, right off the bat, there might be potential to win this pawn on h4. So I do have to be careful with that. Don't blunder into f5. Obviously, there's rook g6. So let's see. What if I just play king g7, pretend that I play the exact same way as in the other game, and then rook to a4 happens. So we do, in fact, lose this pawn. But maybe there's a way which we can save it, which, interesting. Don't quite see it. So this is one of those moments where you do have to be careful. So rook h2 is a possibility. But I feel like it's check, force the king out, and then rook h2. I think that makes a lot more sense, because after this, well, I guess there's no more pin, so h3 will not do anything. Okay, this is an immediate danger on our h4 pawn, and now that I think a little bit more about the position, I'm like, okay, yeah, like white is just genuinely trying to take this pawn. So maybe that's what Hikaru did not like in the game, and maybe that's why he didn't play it. Let's say king g7, rook a4. There's not a clear way to protect the pawn. Obviously, we can always win back the g2 pawn, but that doesn't seem sufficient, does it? As usual, if you get stuck, you can always click on the Show Ideas button. And as you can see, king g7 is the only move. I'm very curious to why that's the case. So let's play king g7. We know it's the great move. But after this move, it seems a little bit dangerous. It feels like we are losing the pawn. Noctie opted for rook a7. I wonder what the move would have been there. Most likely, if I were to guess, we probably have a way in which we make sure the pawn's protected, or we have a lot of checks that offset the king to an inferior situation, right? So if I were to guess, after rook a4, maybe there would have been a check, king e3, a check, king f2, h3, takes. And the idea is that you kind of cannot protect f4, because if you go with this rook, it almost feels like there's multiple checkmates at sight. So that's my guess, okay? But luckily we don't have to deal with it. Rook f4 is what we have to deal with it, so let's focus on that. So rook f4, a real serious threat. So most likely we're gonna employ our checks strategy. So let's start with a check. As you can see, a great move. Let's force this king to e3. That's the only square, and we can continue with checks. And if the king goes to d3, we do have to worry about this pawn for a little bit. I'm kind of worried about protecting this pawn. That's the only thing I want to make sure we're good on. There's always rook b6, and we'll be fine that way. There's always rook e1, but it feels like the king will go to d3. And then this pawn's hanging, so I don't like that. I'm just going to showcase it. Rook e1. Okay, it's a good move. Very interesting. There is also situations in which we win the rook endgame purely because this king is going to be cut off. So, for example, if this pawn's lost and we win this pawn, then because this king's cut off, we might be able to win. But there always seems to be some rook e4. Noctie said is a good move here, but I'm kind of afraid of this threat. We can't really dodge it. And yes, there's a continuous check over here, but okay, the king will probably just go to c2. I guess we are forcing, but it doesn't feel like we're able to play for the win in that variation. So once again, just utilize the Show Ideas button. Rook b3, it does feel like maybe, okay, it could be sufficient, but I like rook e6 the most. Rook e6 was my favorite. I'm trying to meet this idea, rook f4 with rook f6. And as I mentioned, again, there's some lines in which this feels like we should be winning. It feels like because the king's cut off, we should be winning. But there's rook f4, and with this move, it feels like we actually were not able to make it. Because after rook f6, as I mentioned, the king would just be able to go to e3, hug the pawn. There's no way that Noctie is going to lose that. So let's go ahead and take back all the way, maybe right here. Because I know Noctie said king g7 is a good idea. But it just, maybe this was not the problem, but this was really the problem. Just not being able to cover this pawn. So let's go ahead and try to brute force the position. So we know this king is always going to have to go to e3 once we deliver a check to it, right? Or, well, e2 is also an option, but we can continue trying to give it checks. So we're going to start with this move. And I know the pawn is hanging, but we do have this idea to play h3, which is really good. So there we go. I think this is the winning idea in this situation. It was, as you see, very tricky because after gh3, we do have a check. So we would have picked up this pawn and then potentially picked up the other pawn. Rook h4 is the move that Noctie chooses. We're never getting checkmated, so we don't have to worry about that. But it feels like this is a mistake because after hg2, we're going to play rook b3 and pick up the pawn on f3 even faster. It felt like after gh3, rook b3, we pick up this one, but at least there was some h4. Maybe Noctie could continue trying to play for a good defense. But now this is the dream situation. The dream situation is we have the 2 extra pawns, and there's no way Noctie can stop us. Here the king is cut off. I'm just going to make sure we play one good move at a time. So rook f5, rook d5 is the threat. King d2 has to be the move. Now we're going to go all the way to e7. Doesn't really matter where we position the rook, but we just want to keep doing this. So Noctie is going to be forced to trade one of the rooks. So I'm going to continue cutting off the king, as you can see. At some moment, Noctie is going to be forced to play that move. This feels like there are a few checks and nothing else. So maybe similar to the first game, we will see a checkmate happening on this square. But okay, there is rook a4. So we do force the trade of the rooks finally. And obviously Noctie didn't have to do any of these things to where the king is cut on the a file. But from here on, it's a very easy win. We just go ahead and push our pawns. As mentioned, 2 extra pawns are winning. Here, even 1 extra pawn would have been sufficient because the enemy king is cut off. And this is a very nice trick by Noctie. It almost feels like bullet plays, where it almost thinks, okay, he's winning, so I'm going to play a bullet move, and maybe he continues to pre-move. That's actually pretty funny. I like this a lot. This is the benefit of playing an AI chess bot. So yeah, we'll take the rook, but obviously there was an option that we probably missed it. So we'll cut the rook, we'll cut the king, and then we'll promote, and we will checkmate. So we'll pre-move that one because it's fine. And then in honor of the rook endgame, I feel like it's only fair if we promote to another rook. That's what I feel like. That's the only fair way for us to win. So we'll go there, and then we'll go there, and we'll checkmate. So good luck in your games. Make sure to start with that very certain move, h5, h4, and always try to keep it to where you're able to win 2 of the pawns for 1 of your own pawns. There might be situations where you trade 2 pawns, but the enemy king is cut away. So this way you're able to just help your pawn with your king. Those are going to be probably a few rare moments. Make sure that you also keep account of your king. As you saw in the first game, Noctie was trying to sort of attack my king in some checkmating patterns. So do be on the lookout for that. And also be on the lookout for the checks that you have as well. As you saw in this game, we missed this rook h, f1, h3, rook b3 idea. That was a really powerful idea. So with all that being said, good luck in your games. See you in the next one.